tell a story by Jack Ritchie, Shatterproof, published in 1960. I was standing in my study making a drink when I heard him enter the room. I turned around. He was a soft-faced man wearing rimless glasses, but he handled the automatic with unmistakable competence. I was rather surprised at how calm I was when I learned the reason for his presence. I said to him, "It would be a pity to die in ignorance. Who hired you to kill me?" His voice was mild. "I could be an enemy in my own right." I finished pouring my drink from the decanter. "I know the enemies I've made, and you are a stranger. Was it my wife?" He smiled. "Quite correct. Her motive must be obvious." "Yes," I said. "I have money, and apparently she wants it. All of it." He regarded me objectively. "Your age is 53, and your wife is 22. He clicked his tongue. "You were foolish to expect anything permanent, Mr. Williams." I sipped the whiskey. "I expected a divorce after 1 or 2 years, and a painful settlement, but not death." He looked at me carefully. "Your wife is a beautiful woman, and greedy, Mr. Williams. I'm surprised you never noticed." My eyes went to the gun. "I assume you've killed before?" "Yes." "And obviously you enjoy it." He nodded. "A morbid pleasure, I admit, but yes, I do." I watched him and waited. Finally, I said, "You've been here more than 2 minutes, and I'm still alive." He spoke softly. "There is no hurry, Mr. Williams." "Ah. Then the actual killing is not your greatest joy. You must savor the preceding moments. You have insight, Mr. Williams, and as long as I keep you entertained in some manner, I remain alive. Within a time limit, of course." "Naturally. A drink, Mr. Smith, requires no strain on the memory." "Yes, thank you. But please allow me to see what you're doing when you prepare it." It's hardly likely that I would have poison conveniently at hand for just such an occasion. Hardly likely, but still possible. He watched me while I made his drink, then took a seat on an easy chair. I sat on the couch. Where would my wife be at this moment? "At a party, Mr. Williams. There will be 12 people to swear that she never left their sight during the time of your murder." "I will be shot by a burglar?" He put his drink on the cocktail table in front of him. "Yes. After I shoot you, I shall of course wash this glass and return it to your liquor cabinet. And when I leave, I shall wipe all fingerprints from the doorknobs I've touched. You will take some trifles with you to make the burglar story more authentic?" "That will not be necessary, Mr. Williams. The police will assume that the burglar panicked after he killed you and fled empty-handed." "That painting on the east wall," I said. "It's worth 30,000. His eyes went to the painting for a moment, and then quickly returned to me. "It is tempting, Mr. Williams, but I desire to possess nothing that would even remotely connect me to you. I appreciate art, especially its monetary value, but not enough to risk the electric chair." Then he smiled. "Or were you perhaps offering me the painting in exchange for your life?" "It was a thought." "I'm sorry, Mr. Williams. Once I accept a commission, I am not dissuaded. It's a matter of professional pride." I put my drink on the cocktail table. Are you waiting for me to show fear, Mr. Smith? You will show it. And then you will kill me. His eyes flickered. It is a strain, isn't it, Mr. Williams, to be afraid and not to dare show it? Do you expect your victims to beg? They do in one manner or another. They appeal to your humanity, and that is hopeless. It is hopeless. They offer you money, very often. Is that also hopeless? So far it has been, Mr. Williams. Behind the painting I pointed out to you, Mr. Smith, there is a wall safe. He gave the painting another brief glance. Yes. It contains $5,000. That's a lot of money, Mr. Williams. I picked up my glass and went to the painting. I opened the safe, selected a brown envelope, and then finished my drink. I put the empty glass in the safe, closed it, and twirled the knob. Mr. Smith's eyes were drawn to the envelope. Bring that here, please. I put the envelope on the table in front of him. He looked at it for a few moments and then looked up at me. Did you actually think you could buy your life? I lit a cigarette. No. You are, shall we say, incorruptible. He frowned slightly. But still, you brought me the $5,000. I picked up the envelope and emptied its contents onto the table. Old receipts, all completely worthless to you. He showed irritation. What do you think this has possibly gained you? The opportunity to go to the safe and put your glass inside it. He looked at the glass in front of him. That was yours, not mine. I smiled. It was your glass, Mr. Smith. And I imagine the police will wonder what an empty glass is doing in my safe. And since this will be a case of murder, I would think they will have the intelligence to take fingerprints. His eyes narrowed. I haven't taken my eyes off you for a moment. You couldn't have switched our glasses. No? I seem to recall that at least twice you looked at the painting. Automatically, he looked again in that direction. Only for a second or two. It was enough. He began to perspire. I say it was impossible. Then I'm afraid you will be greatly surprised when the police come for you. And after a while, you will have the delightful opportunity of facing death in the electric chair. You will share your victim's anticipation of death, with the addition of a great deal more time to contemplate it, more time to let your imagination play with the topic. I'm sure you've read accounts of executions in the electric chair. His finger tightened on the trigger. I wonder how you'll go, I said. You've probably pictured yourself facing death with calm and fortitude. But that is a common and comforting delusion, Mr. Smith. You will more likely have to be dragged. His voice was level. Open that safe or I'll kill you. I laughed. Really now, Mr. Smith, we both know that obviously you will kill me if I do open the safe. A minute went by before he spoke. What do you intend to do with the glass? If you don't murder me, and now I suspect you won't, I will take it to a private detective agency, and I will have your fingerprints reproduced. I will put them, along with a note containing pertinent information, into a sealed envelope, and I will leave instructions that in the event I die violently, even if the occurrence appears accidental, the envelope be forwarded to the police. He took a deep breath. All that won't be necessary, Mr. Williams. I will leave now, and you will never see me again. I shook my head. I prefer my plan. It provides protection for my future. He was thoughtful. Why don't you go directly to the police? I have my reasons. His eyes went down to his gun. Then slowly, he put the gun in his pocket. An idea came to him. Your wife could very easily hire someone else to kill you. Yes, she could do that. I would be accused of your murder. I could go to the electric chair. I imagine so. Unless Smith waited. Unless she were unable to hire anyone. He replied, but there must be half a dozen others. He stopped. I smiled. Did my wife tell you where she would be now? At the Petersons. She will leave at 11. 11, I said. A good time. It will be very dark tonight. Do you know the Petersons' address? He stared at me. No. It's in Bridgehampton, I said, and I gave him the house number. We locked eyes for half a minute. Then I spoke softly. It's something you must do for your own protection. He slowly buttoned his coat. And where will you be at 11, Mr. Williams? At my club, probably playing cards with a number of friends. They will no doubt commiserate with me when I receive word that my wife has been shot. It all depends on the circumstances and the opportunity. Then he smiled thinly. Did you ever love her? I picked up a jade figurine and examined it. I was extremely fond of this piece when I first bought it. Now it bores me. I will replace it with another. After he was gone, I had just enough time to take the glass to a detective agency before going on to my club. Not the one in the safe, of course. It held only my own fingerprints. I took the one Mr. Smith left on the cocktail table. His fingerprints developed quite clearly.